people that have graduated Dewitt Clinton High School, and many of them have important words of advice for you about what life has in store for you when you leave the sheltering hallways that are behind us. Right now, I want you to think about the good times, and I want you to think about the bad. Because I know that high school, similar to life, sometimes friends come and go. And I want you to remember the person to your left. I want you to remember the person to your right. And if you were fortunate enough, you had someone who was there with you during your lowest points. Maybe they were a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a best friend, a group of friends, a parent, a family member, a staff member, guidance counselor, teacher, assistant principal, whoever that person is, whether they're here or not. I want you to fill your heart with them right now. I want you to have them on your mind. And I want you to do something that normally a school official wouldn't ask you to do. I'm going to ask you on the count of 3 to thank them out loud, to all collectively do what I know many students are trained for in the hallways to do over and over again, which is to yell as loud as you can and make them feel it. I feel like you've been training your entire scholastic career to do this. Can we try this? All right, on the count of 3, and make this person feel it, or people, whoever they may be. 1, 2, 3, thank you. Now this was my cheap way, or attempt, this was my cheap attempt to kind of make sure that I didn't forget about anyone in thanking people. But since it's kind of hard to hear what they just said, and maybe you felt it, is I want to thank some people who made this event and this day possible. I want to first thank the custodial staff, the unsung heroes who were out here earlier, setting up the chairs that you're all seating on, identifying that the platform that they call, that really are just a bunch of tables, were not safe for us to sit on. So we got rid of those, and that's why we're like this. I want to thank the school aides who are out there making sure that everyone who is parking in the parking lot doesn't get jammed in there, so that we have a nice organization going on and that parents who have parked there can get out in time. I want to thank, let's hear it for them. I'm sorry. I want to thank the staff, the teachers, the guidance counselors, the assistant principals. Okay, now we can applaud. We're getting better. I want to thank the president of Monroe College, Mark Jerome, who's here today with us. He's contributed this powerful outside sound system that without you would not be able to appreciate all the different voices, not mine, but all the different students and people you are going to hear from, that I promise you will hopefully be words that you'll remember. So. And most importantly, in case you didn't hear it in that large sound that these students gave off, I want to thank the parents and the families that are here that supported these students throughout and brought these bundles of joy into all of our lives. So graduation is the time, it's the end of an era. It's the beginning of a new pathway. It is an opportunity to stop and reflect on what was just learned and what we have in store for us going forward. For some of us, this is going to be a whole new environment that you're walking into, and that's really scary. For others, it's all about figuring out what we're going to do next, which is equally scary. And graduation is all about people coming up here and giving you words of advice. Something to hold on to as you go on to this next phase in your life. And this is very ironic that I'm standing here today giving you advice like this for so many reasons. But one of the biggest ones is that when I was sitting there where you are, and my parents were giving me advice, I was really good at ignoring it. My parents even had a phrase for me that they would say when they would see that advice bouncing off of me, and they would say it in Spanish, "Déjalo que se choque la cabeza. Así él va a aprender." And I think translated literally, what this means is let him bash his head. That's the way he's going to learn. And it's not that I disagreed with my parents. They were always right, generally speaking. Experience gives them this. But I would always say to my parents as they were lecturing me about what I should have and could have done to avoid what was probably another epic failure, I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I'm afraid to not live my life. I'm afraid to not have what comes with life, which is the good, the bad, the pain, the suffering, the joy, and the wisdom. So now there's going to be some things that are going to be offered to you about what to do next with your life. There's one really famous line that is said over and over again to students graduating everywhere, and I'm sure you've heard this one before. Do what makes you happy, and you'll never work a day in your life. Have we all heard this one? Is it just me, or I hate this line? I find this one so misleading. I'm going to give you the opposite advice. Do not follow this exactly. Why am I saying that? Because if you were to stop and do what made you happy immediately, maybe for some of us, that's doing something for money, because we don't have it. And then you end up down the road in a job that maybe you didn't necessarily find fulfills you. Maybe for some of you, doing something to make you happy means getting praise from others. Somebody telling you you're doing a good job. Because maybe you don't hear that often enough. And then you maybe end up in another situation where it isn't totally fulfilling you. My fear is that you do what makes you immediately happy and end up avoiding those things that come with life, the criticism that others might have, the judgment, and that you'd be avoiding the fear of failure. And without this risk of failure, you cannot know what it means to succeed. Without this, you cannot find your path or your voice without the risk of criticism. You cannot find love without the risk of loss. So as you go off, I say to you, class of 2017, you must go out and take these risks. And people will tell you to do what makes you happy. But you will not always be happy doing this, because it will be hard work to find who you are uniquely. So I tell you to do what is only uniquely you. Do what is hard and uncomfortable. Do what fail at what other people, or fail at what you want to see yourself doing. Fail in the way that you see yourself doing that. Fail and pick yourself up. And I promise all of you here that when you look back on your life in doing this, you will look back on a life that was well lived. Class of 2017, we wish you nothing but success as you go forward on finding your journey in a life full of meaningful mistakes. Thank you.